Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hey, Tim, how you doing, buddy?
Great, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm liking the stash.
Thank you. Hasn't scared away the students yet, and Steph tolerates it. So we're going to keep it for now. You remember Steph?
Great.
Yeah, so good to see you. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. We have students from all five of our churches, four in St. Louis
Oh,
and
great.
one in Belleville, Illinois, just right across the river. And so they're all really
Okay,
looking
cool.
forward to getting to know you, to hearing your heart, and it's just great to see you again. So I have a few questions
Yeah, good to
for
see
you.
y'all. Thanks for your time. I'm looking forward to it.
You bet. So everybody's muted right now, just to make sure they're on their best behavior. But we'll get to the Q&A at the end, and then we'll be able to unmute them one at a time.
Okay.
They can ask you questions.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Okay, good deal. So I just have a few questions for you to get the ball rolling. And feel
Yep.
free if you want to skip any questions. I know you deal with the media on a regular basis, so if you just want a hard pass, I won't take it personal. But I'll try to take it.
Yeah.
Okay, first one. I'm just going to put this one on a tee before we get to the tough stuff. But what have you been doing? I know you just got married, and congratulations in March. We're really excited for you. Hopefully you're getting a little extra time with your bride. But what are you doing to pass the time during the quarantine?
Yeah, so I got married March 6th, and me and Michelle and her two daughters, our two daughters, Laura Grace and Maddie, are down here in Florida, and been able to spend a lot of good time together. And they have school during the week, which I'm sure everybody can relate to, and they're mostly doing their best to enjoy that. And they've been great and been super with that. But we just spend some quality time together. We take walks, and I've gotten pretty good experience playing Monopoly and Scrabble and Uno. Yeah, yeah. I can't tell you I'm very good at it, but I enjoy playing, and we have a lot of fun with it. And we spend time in the Word with each other, and through prayer, and just enjoy each other. And again, just try to catch up with other people and check in. And obviously, we're checking in on our players and our staff, and making sure they're safe. And but just really just trying to do what we can to stay positive, really.
Yeah. Well, this is uncharted territory for us all. So we're really trying to encourage the students to stay strong in their faith at a time like this, especially. So hopefully the Lord has blessed this time for you and your family, and you've really been able to enjoy it, because I know usually around this time of year, you can be in the heart of the season, and that doesn't leave you too much time for any extracurricular activities. So hopefully you're finding that this is a time that the Lord really has been blessing for you all.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. It's the way we look at it. It's clearly a lot of different things going on in the world that we'd rather be doing other things, and but this is where the Lord's put us. And faith is what you make of things that you don't necessarily understand, and it really tests your belief, but it's only strengthened mine.
Yeah. So speaking of your faith, how did you first come to know Christ?
So it's a great question. I wish I would be able to tell you that I grew up in a home where my dad was Catholic and my mom was Episcopalian, and they actually went to two different churches. And I'd go to church with my mom, and I was a participatory in the church, but I was there more physically than I was there spiritually. I had a belief in my heart of God, and but I didn't feel as connected as I would have, or looking back, would have liked to have been. Um, and then I went through high school and was a pretty normal high school student, with not as much participation in the church, and but good-hearted, try to treat people well, do things, be respectful, but I didn't have that light that I have now from the Lord. And then went to college and was just a train wreck. Just not very disciplined, and um, not paying attention to what I should have been paying attention to, and just didn't really have a moral compass that that led me to a really positive places. Again, not a bad person, or did anything illegal, or did anything that hurt anybody or anything like that. I just I just wasn't fulfilled, and didn't know it, and that's the thing. And I was searching, and searching for things, and then kind of a little bit of a long answer for you, Tim, but I got into coaching, and God placed me in a place where He knew my heart, and the blessing was almost immediate, in a sense that I received, in the fact that he matched me with my passion and my talent,
Mm.
and I didn't really have a lot of direction otherwise, and um, I got to start coaching young people in high school baseball and American Legion baseball, and then some collegiate baseball, and just realized I had a home in helping and caring and growing others. And I didn't really realize it was a spiritual mission necessarily. I just knew I enjoyed it, but I still didn't have that real strong connection. And then I just started getting closer to people that I saw that lived their life a certain way, and I wanted to understand what that looked like.
Yeah.
And and one of the things I noticed about those people, I felt like it took courage for them, to live in a certain way, and to own their faith. And none of the people were overly, they didn't communicate a lot. They weren't preaching a lot. They were just living their life with um, a moral compass that I respected, and how they went about, how they treated people, how they cared for people, how they cared for others. And I just started seeking out what that was. And I can't tell you I had a moment of epiphany where I, got on my knees, and but I will say this, I was trying to do a lot of it on my own,
Mm.
and I just kept hitting my head against the wall, so to speak, and I wasn't getting where I wanted to go. But I realized it wasn't where I wanted to go. And when I had that moment that, I'd allow myself to surrender to God, um, I just had a wave of peace over me, that still exists. And my direction of where and how I go and live my life is, it's surrender's tough, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody here wants things for themselves. And, I grew up in a competitive situation with athletics, started coaching competitively. Clearly, we're still competing with the Cardinals, and we're going to play this year. Just make sure everybody knows we're going to play at some point this year.
So,
Um, yeah, so I'm sure there's some questions there, but start to get excited. We're going to play some baseball at some point soon, hopefully, than later. But I guess the point I'm getting at is, when you're competing and you want to think about, hey, I'm going to compete, and I love the team aspect of it, but surrender is really hard. Surrender to your life that's really not ours, and surrender the material possessions that ultimately really aren't ours. Um, that takes a little bit of, it took me a while to get my head around what that is. And for me, that purity of surrender to God is what really allows my life to be complete. And once I got to a place where I was comfortable doing that, and be able to live that way, and be able to walk that way, and be comfortable with myself, then my life really opened up for me.
yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Mike. It's your transparency and your willingness to share that inspires others. And in the short time we were able to get to know each other, it was just how you love people. Like you said, you were inspired by other people, and not how they preached or shoved the gospel down your throat, but how they lived their everyday life, and just loved you in the daily routines and the monotony of life. And I think that goes a long way for our students to see that example at a young age, how they interact with their classmates, their siblings, whatever it may be. So now that the Lord has brought you back to Himself and revealed His character to you, what does your relationship with Jesus mean to you?
Well, it's, this is the other thing that's hard to get my head around, is it's the most important relationship I'm going to have, because without it, I really can't be good to other people like I would like to, um, which is, and I've thought about it more recently as I've gotten married. You know, Michelle's the person that I give my attention to, my love to. You know, she's my number one. But I still have to make sure that I've got I'm in the right place with God.
Mhm.
Because if I'm in the right place with God, then I can really honor her to the best of my ability and honor the people in my life to the best of my ability. And any time that I stray away from the Lord and His message, and because I'm the one straying, it typically, you know, there's usually if something isn't going well, it's because I'm not right with God. I'm not right with my mindset. I'm not right with my surrender. I'm not right with my trying to worry about my needs and not putting other people in front of my own needs. So it's just really about putting Him first and being intentional about that and being available to get help with that. I'm not too big or proud to not. I need help. I need accountability. I need help from Michelle. I need help from you know guys on our team, our staff, people in my life, and of course, I get guidance through reading the Bible and Scripture. But um, you know, without it, Oliver Marmol's our bench coach, and he just refers to God as our anchor.
Hmm.
And if you are on a boat and you drop an anchor, where you're rooted into something just by definition. But if you don't have an anchor, you're just kind of floating around, and you think you can handle that, and you can some days, just a lot harder.
For sure. So in the craziness of life, whether you're the manager of the Cardinals or a student in high school or middle school, we all have different things that are vying for our attention, and different things that we can idolize that tell us if we invest our time and attention in them, we'll find joy. But how are you able to grow close, especially during the chaos of your schedule? One thing that you told me that really made an impression on me was you start every day just by your bedside. Before you do anything else, the first thing you do is pray. And that really stuck out to me. And it's nothing earth-shattering. It's just something that's so simple, but really has stuck with me. And Steph and I practice that as best we can. We're not perfect in any way, but it's just the best way to dedicate your day to Him. So we've found that to be a huge help. And what are some other ways that you recommend for our students getting closer to the Lord? What are some spiritual disciplines that you really find are helpful for you?
Well, to finish, in your thought, I'm glad that made some impact on you. I start virtually every day on my, getting out of bed and get on my knees, and just, it's not long, just a real quick, grateful for the day ahead, and grateful for all the many blessings I have, and I pray for the ability to see um, struggle in others and to be available to witness what that may look like and how I can help that. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to do the same thing and be grateful for the day that I had. And, hopefully that I was able to honor Him. And then in between, after I kind of get my day started, I'll spend some time, and I read a couple of different Bible apps. Jesus Calling is one of them. And I read through the Holy Bible. And I always find a verse that I feel like can help other people. And I've got probably, I don't know, um, 15, 20 people every day that I'll send a verse to. And I've kind of added that to that number. People that are just, I've got a connection with, and there's other people that I come across that are struggling with something. Um, and I just want to let them know I'm thinking about them. I'm praying for them, give them something that they can encourage them through Scripture. Um, some of them are trying to find their way of what that looks like, but they're at least open enough to be receptive to what the verse is that particular day. Again, not looking to push anything, my belief system on anybody else. And then, during the course of the season, there's a little more rhythm. One thing that's been a challenge for me, at least, is the lack of rhythm in our lives right now. and so the spiritual rhythm has been disrupted a little bit. Um, we have some Bible studies we do with our staff on the Cardinal staff. We have a team chaplain, Adam, who on Sundays will come in and minister to us. And then we go on the road. We have chapel every Sunday on the road with the visiting team's chaplain. So, those are ways to connect and make sure we're staying, in a good place with our faith. And, so those are probably the biggest things. But now that we're out of that rhythm, we watched church online this morning with me and Michelle, and, we spend more time, looking at more of doing stuff like this. Our chaplain's been on Zoom, and, so those have been the resources we've used, and, just stay connected with people and talk to them and just see where they are.
That's great. Maybe I can be the 21st person on that texting thread so I can forward your Bible.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. Love to have you, brother.
Yeah. Okay, I think I just have one more question, and then I'll turn it over to the students. So how are you able to find joy, especially during times like these?
That's a great question, and it's one that I'm really feel strongly about, and full transparency. I've looked up a couple days and been frustrated, frustrated with where we are in our world, and worrying and praying for the health of other people, and worried about people's jobs, and people ability to just live and be healthy and have some peace, and so that's been some frustration there. And then we had opening day, and that was a tough day. And then we had the home opener, and that's a day of magic, and just yearning for that. And so my point I'm getting at is I've had those days, which we all are, and we're going to have, that are just frustrating, and I'm a pretty positive guy, but I do have my moments of weakness. And the ultimate way that I've been able to come through that is be able to, again, get to my anchor, get, surrender to God, realize that He's in control, and let go of some of those burdens I'm feeling. But then also just have a mindset of gratitude. I'm just a real big believer in making sure that you can be appreciative of what you do have. One of the easiest things in the world to do is be a victim and complain about what you don't have, or what you're not getting, or who you're not able to see, or the restrictions. And that's all real. And that, like I said, I've had those moments, but I think it's really healthy mentally to take a step back and say, this is what I do have. I am healthy, or I do have people that are close to me that I love. I can reach out to other people. There are things that can still bring joy, whether it's a book or a sunset or a walk or, a hug or whatever that may be, something silly and funny and goofy. It doesn't have to be serious, but just be grateful for what we have. And when you have a mindset of gratitude, I know you're in a better place. And the other thing I would encourage that, is, do something physically active. Treat yourself good, and do something physically active that will make you feel better. It's an easy cycle to get into, to just kind of lay around, mentally and physically have the blahs, but have some gratitude for what you can do, and do something to honor God with your body as well.
Yeah. All right, Mike, thanks. So those were soft toss questions. The kids are going to bring the heat. So
all right, we're going to bring them now. Let's go.
All right, we're going to introduce one at a time. So the first one we have, she is a sophomore in high school. Her name is Mallory, and she's going to ask you a question as soon as we unmute her.
Okay.
Okay, am I good to go?
Yes.
I got you.
Okay, so I was wondering, how do you stay positive when the game doesn't really go as planned, or when you don't really have a big reason to?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. I appreciate that. There's two different ways of positivity. The best way that I can stay positive is is knowing, because I'm responsible for me ultimately, and I have a responsibility of the team, the staff. Ultimately, a lot of things that happen fall on my shoulders, and I'm okay with that. But I have to start with making sure that I'm complete and I'm prepared. So I'm going to spend a lot of time preparing physically and mostly and mentally to make sure when that game starts, I am not surprised by virtually anything. And then I trickle that into the staff, which they are very self-sufficient and very mindful of that. And then the players, our players are super dedicated to being excellent every day. And so when you do that and then you go out and it doesn't work, because the other side's trying too, the margin of our game is super thin, and those margins are getting thinner every single day based on technology and based on more efficiency and how people are operating. So if it doesn't go well, I can stay calm if I know that we're doing everything we can. And I actually read this too, and I'll read it to you. And I shouldn't have to, but I have a quote, and I got this from Mike Matheny's card. We have a manager card. So if you look in the game and you see me looking at a card, I can tell you what's all is on there. It's a fair amount of stuff, and I've customed it to how I think and how I want to manage the game. But there's a quote on there, Colossians 3:23, that I read almost every half inning, and it says, there's different versions of it, obviously, but whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for man. And so the second part of that is I have freedom in knowing that I've done my absolute best, and a lot of times it works, all right, and sometimes it just doesn't. And I got to tell you, it stinks for it not to work, and especially consistently in a market that has such a passionate fan base that wants us to do so well, and has high expectations for winning World Series and championships, which I love and I embrace. But there's days it just doesn't happen, and there's times periods where it doesn't happen, and ultimately my peace comes from the quote, the verse I just read, but it also comes from that place of, what, I know we have done everything we can, and we laid it out there on the field. And some days you tip your hat. Now, the uber frustrating part is if I feel like I or we are missing something, that we didn't put our best effort in, we weren't prepared, we didn't have the proper amount of focus and effort. That's where I get the most frustrated is when we don't compete in those terms, and that's very rare for us. But I'm not saying it's easy, Mallory, but that's the way I handle it. That keeps me, mentally sane. Good question. All right,
Okay.
let's go. What you got?
All right, Mallory, thanks for batting lead off. Let's see. Next, we have Josiah Hawkins. He had two questions, but let's just start with one, Josiah.
Okay. What people in your life encourage and challenge you in your faith, and how do those relationships strengthen your faith?
Those are the best relationships. Great question, Josiah. So your best relationships, and this is probably one of the things that hopefully one of the better takeaways that we can get for everybody today, hopefully. The people that care the most about you are going to tell you things that you need to hear because they love you. There's not an agenda behind it. There's not they don't want anything from you. And those are the most important relationships you have. I would hope and pray that that's your parents or guardians or siblings. And you surround yourself with friends like that. But I have a very, very strong network of people that have poured into me for years that will tell me things that I need to hear because they love me. And your initial reaction, at least mine is, the human reaction is, you get a little frustrated by that. You don't want to hear it. But when you know that person's coming at a good place and you're open And I think that's a really important place to be at. You're open to hearing what that looks like, and you know they're trying to just love you, and you can hear what they're saying. Then that allows me at least to stay more grounded and closer to my faith, and allows me the opportunity to make better decisions and be a stronger Christian. Um, so I would really encourage you again to make sure you have those people in life that'll give you truth, um, because they love you, and then be available to listen to you, listen to them. That makes sense, Josiah? All right, cool. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, next one's coming from Jessica Raj.
Do you pray or share your faith with the team?
Yes, I do. You know, Jessica, we have a very strong faith-based team, and we have had for years. It's a group that the players have it, our staff have it. You know, we have like-minded people, so it's an environment that people walk with the Lord and are comfortable with that. Now, clearly, it's a work environment, and it's not anything that, you know, my job is to manage the team, but I do get to disciple through my actions, which some days are flawed. But you know, I do have an opportunity to do that by attending the chapel I'm talking about. And there's been moments where between everybody here, you know, we've won and have some celebrations, and we you know, or some of the team will lead us in prayer before we celebrate, and be grateful for the blessings that we have and the ability to accomplish what we were able to accomplish, and surrender the accomplishment to God. So, you know, those are things that are done behind the scenes, but I am pretty transparent with my faith with the players, and, you know, I hope to be a light for them, and for the ones that maybe are looking to find their way. Ultimately, I feel like it's more important for me to help them lead them to Christ than it is for me to help them win baseball games.
Thanks, Jessica. All right, Mike, 3 for 3, batting 1,000. See if you
All right, good.
Jacob Minners next.
Hi. So obviously we're living in very complicated times right now. So I was just wondering what sort of encouragement you would have for people who are struggling with isolation or unemployment or other things like that.
You know, Jacob, that's a good question, and it's an important question. I think as a starting point, we're doing it, and you know, it's right to have questions, but, you know, it's really about it's twofold for me. One, it's about the surrender to God, to say, you know what, this is whatever issues I'm dealing with, and they're real, and I don't want to minimize them. Those are real earthly issues: loneliness, feeling, you know, like you're not being able, or your family's not being able to be supported, you know, not feeling safe. Those are, you know, and I've been there. I can tell you, I have been there. I'm blessed to be in a spot I'm in now, but I've been in those situations growing up. I've been in those situations, you know, through my coaching career. And, you know, the first starting point of that is you're surrendered to God. But I also believe in this sincerely. You also have a responsibility to do your part. And, you know, he will provide. He won't provide. You know, I say this fairly often, you know, man plans and God laughs. If you can accept the fact that he will provide, that's what the true definition of faith is. So really it's a test of your faith. So, you know, stay with him, stay positive. And the positive part now is a requirement of you as well. But it also, the positive for me comes through action. You know, people can say, you know, stay positive, relax, everything's going to be okay. It's going to work out. You ever heard anybody tell you, like, hey, it'll work out? Well, yeah, it's going to work out, but it ain't going to work out unless you do something about it. So there's a responsibility that we have to honor the gifts that God's given us, and I'm a believer he will provide opportunity. But if you don't get off the couch and you don't change your mindset, and you're going to be a victim and feel sorry for yourself, and it's okay to be discouraged, that's okay. But if you're going to sit there and not help yourself and not try to do what you can and not look for other opportunities to, like I mentioned earlier about being grateful, then you're going to stay in the same spot you are as a victim and a slave to your current circumstances. And, you know, effectively, you're not rewarding the gifts he's given you. So if you reward the gifts he's given you and you're positive and you work with your family unit or with your support system, I'm a believer that the best version of what you can do will take place. And I don't want to minimize that that's an easy thing to do. That is not easy. And the wrap up point to that, I will say, is don't be afraid to ask for help. It's probably the biggest thing I can encourage everybody on here, and especially younger people. If you're sitting here and you're trapped and you're having these feelings or emotions, first of all, you know what that makes you? It makes you normal. It's normal to have anxiety. It's normal to have fear. It's normal to have doubt. It's normal to have, you know, all kind of different insecurities. That's what makes us human, and that's what is part of us being flawed. But what I'll tell you is, if you can start by saying, you know what, and admit to somebody, which is hard. It is a hard thing to do, to say, I'm struggling with this. I need help with this. Show me guidance. Show me how I can do it. Or just have somebody just to listen to you, to be able to get to understand, have some empathy with you. I believe admitting you're struggling with something is a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of strength, not weakness. So a little bit long answer to your question, but ultimately have your faith in yourself, and do something, and then be able to lean on your brothers and sisters in our world to be there to support you, and know it's okay, and not feel like you got to do it all yourself, because it's just not possible.
Well said, Mike. Okay, you touched on the importance of your coaches and how they hold you accountable. These next two, they are our all-star leaders, two of our best, and they really keep this train rolling. So it's Brandon and Melanie Lunt, but they do have a downfall. The St. Louis Blues are their first love. So maybe you can make them rethink their priorities.
Yeah, no, congratulations. You
Wait.
got the gear on. You got a beautiful day in your backyard. So, you know, hey, you remember the Blues and us.
Mike, I'm a baseball girl through and through. Since being with him, I've learned to love the Blues, but I just want to throw that out there.
Okay.
Before I get lumped in.
Are we sure he's a positive influence?
But my question is, do you ever receive? Yes,
Okay. He looks like it.
it's a fair point. He's
Yeah.
got the hat on though.
I see him rocking it.
Do you ever receive negative feedback for being a Christian from maybe other teams or other coaches or anybody on the team maybe, or just any negative feedback for being a Christian? And if so, how do you handle that?
It's a great question. I don't receive, you know, internally, there's no negative feedback to that, pretty much on every team. You know, some have, you know, more of that culture than others, but I can tell you that from a real positive standpoint, you know, the Christian community is growing in Major League Baseball, and there's people that are intentional. Yesterday to Michelle about this is the other side of, and I'm probably maybe too far some days, especially, you know, publicly. I'm pretty open with my faith, and you know, it's really not my job ultimately, you know, as a spokesperson for the team on the field to necessarily to witness, but I do when I get a chance. But I haven't had pushback. I tell you where I have had pushback, and I do understand it, but it is a little frustrating, a little bit disappointing. You know, I've had some human moments, you know, and the thing about our human moments, a lot of them are in front of thousands and millions of people. And I don't profess to walk or do or be perfect. And I'm flawed, and I'm pleased that I've been able to surrender myself and walk in the light that I have. I used to beat myself up quite a bit for being flawed. I used to beat myself up for doing some of the things I've done in the past before I had conviction in Christ and had darkness in my life, quite honestly. But the disappointing part is when I've had a moment of weakness, and I don't, I haven't had a ton, but I've had them, and I'll have more. It's just going to happen. The more you're in a public setting, the more you profess your faith, and I've been called out on it, which is okay. I've been called out by my brothers in Christ to say, hey man, that's not how you walk. That's not, and I can accept that. That part's healthy. That kind of alluded to earlier, and I can welcome that. But having people I don't really know, reach out and chastise me for saying something and saying I'm hypocritical as a Christian, I understand their point. Their point's well taken, but I'm a big believer in grace, and I'm going to have my moments of weakness, and the fact of the matter is people are going to look for that to exploit it, and that's the hard part that can be challenging, and that's okay. We put ourselves on a platform, but that's also my quote that I read from the game card from Colossians about I'm here to serve God, not man, and so it can be frustrating to get an email or called out about, hey man, you think you're some big Christian, and you use poor language, and they're right, but you don't how about some grace, or how about and I don't need to broadcast some of the things I do. It's I do things for the goodness of God in His eyes, not to show man that I'm anything other than who I am. But no, as far as the league goes in the clubhouse, no pushback on that necessarily.
All right, Luntz, thanks. Next, we have Miriam Steele. Come on down.
Hi. So my question was, how have you seen God work in your life through being a manager of Cardinals?
Say it a little bit louder, Miriam. I couldn't hear you.
How have you seen God work through your life through being a manager of Cardinals?
Oh gosh, I can tell you right now, one of the things that, and I alluded to it earlier, I can be hard-headed. So I used to be really hard-headed, not so much anymore because I understand who's driving this train. But so when I surrendered, my life started to come together, and I can look at every single part of my life, and whether it's the hard times or whether it's the great times, and realize that God has had a hand in every single thing that I've been able to do. And that just deepens my spiritual faith. And I can, I full disclosure, I still don't know how I'm the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. I got no idea. Relatively speaking, my background didn't put me on track. But here's what I say about the honoring part that I alluded to earlier. God has rewarded me because I feel like I've been sincere in honoring Him and rewarding the spiritual gifts that He's given me. So I feel confident that, and it doesn't mean you're going to manage the Cardinals or whatever, but I feel confident that if you honor the gifts that God's given you, my prayer for everyone in this call is that you'll be receptive and find awareness for your spiritual gifts, and you'll have the ability, like I have, to be able to use them and honor them. And so that's how I know God has put a finger on my life. But I've also been receptive to it, and I was, like I said, blessed to realize that coaching and working with young people was a passion of mine, and I was pretty good at it. And And I just wanted to be sincere about and I cared about others more than I cared about myself. And he's rewarded me because of that. And he's rewarded me with a lot of unbelievable personal relationships as well.
Mike, I don't know if you can see the chat, but you're getting a whole lot of amens and preach on preachers. And so they're hearing you and appreciating the encouragement along the way.
Okay, well, good. Great.
Okay, we have 4 more students, should bring us to 6:30. Next up is Emerson Mattia. Emerson, I understand you have 2 questions. Let's pick your favorite one.
Okay. Well, one of mine was already answered, so I'll just ask this one.
Great.
Have you been really close to the players during this time of social distancing and quarantine?
Yeah, good question, Emerson. Yes, we have. We're a close group, so we enjoy each other. And the initial communication has, and still is, but the initial communication as this thing started to unfold, and we just didn't know what was going on, really, and just the severity of it, and the consequences of it, and it was just so abnormal. And so the first thing that we did, me, the staff, was just reach out to players and make sure they were just got home, or they were at a place of safety. They were getting fed. They were healthy. They were mentally in a good place. And so I speak to every player past the 40-man roster. It's roughly about 50 guys, at least once a week. And we have a Zoom call tomorrow with some of the players. I've had Zoom calls with every single guy in groups, and our staff reaches out. Our players hear from either a trainer, a strength and conditioning coach, a pitching coach, a hitting coach, a position coach, and me once a week. So that players are hearing 4 to 5 different people from the organization checking in on them. And the good news is now we're starting to talk about some baseball things and start to get more of our head around baseball and what they're able to do and how they're able to train. And we're going to talk about fun stuff like bunt plays and cutoffs and relays and stuff like that. So, we stay in touch and generally speaking, all of our players in a very good spot mentally and physically and are eager to get started again. Good question, Emerson.
Okay, next we have Sophie Payne.
Okay, so how do you stand firm in your faith and not shaken by the culture?
Well, that's a good question. I feel like if I strengthen something every day, it's harder to break down. So I'm going to be really encouraged. I'm going to do everything I can every day to surround myself, and this is very important. I surround myself with fellow believers. Now, I don't exclude people that don't believe. That's not how this works. It's actually the opposite of how this works. But because I want to be able to be a light and to help bring people to Christ. But I do need to be around people that are gonna help me and hold me accountable in my walk. So that's a culture that I create. And I understand this culture is important. And every single person on this call creates their own culture. Now, I have a responsibility to help them create a culture with our team, but you create your culture. The people you surround yourself is your culture. What you watch on TV, that's your culture. What you read, that's your culture. So you individually have a real opportunity to create an amazing culture for yourself to work off of and to think of, because what you put around you and what you put into your mind is what you're going to be. And so you have a choice. Now, the hard thing, especially for younger people, is that's just not it's not the most popular thing to do sometimes. And saying no or turning off something that is really new and maybe exciting and that's a hard thing to do. I get it. But if you can surround yourself by the right kind of music, the right kind of things you watch on TV, and have the discipline to create your own culture that's positive, then you're going to stay in a good place, and you're going to walk the closest road you can to God's. Thank you, Soph.
The next person up, it's a guy that you're familiar with. Our very own Ken Ellingson is on with us, one of our
All right.
elders at West County. And I think
What's up, Ken?
Hey, I just wanted to say hello and thanks for doing this tonight. It's been great to see you, and the lessons that you are sharing with the kids and adults is just fantastic.
Well, thanks, Ken. I appreciate it. It's my privilege and quite a blessing. Thank you very much.
All right, Mike, the next student we have is Bailey Nagel.
So what made you decide to take the job as manager and like start working for the Cardinals?
Yeah, that was an easy decision. Taking the job, you're talking about a dream job for anybody that loves our game, for managing the St. Louis Cardinals. I started in the organization in 2004 with zero thought about ever, even being a part of the big league staff. I started as a scout, and then I got into player development. I don't want to bore you with my story, but just a blessing to be a part of the organization from the beginning. And I just wanted to make sure, like I still do, to create value every day for the organization. And I just want to do the best I can to continue to move what's really an amazing, successful on and off the field organization, just be a good steward for it, and leave it in a good spot, and win another World Series, and that's really it. But as far as the decision goes, that was it was in unfortunate circumstances, because I took over in the middle of a season, and unfortunately in our business and in life, sometimes your opportunity comes at the expense of somebody else. So there was some mixed emotions, and it was bittersweet in that regard. But as far as the encouragement of taking the decision, that was an easy one.
Thanks, Bailey. Okay, next and the last question we have for tonight is going to be Quinn Lawrence.
Okay. How do you stay humble when you're in the spotlight?
Quinn, it's a good question. It's for whatever reason, it comes fairly easy to me, and I'm confident it would not have 15, 20 years ago. I've always had a heart for people first and players first, but I did realize, and I've got a dear friend, his name's Mark Minute. He's a high school coach and just retired actually in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I played against Coach Minute. And he's a man of faith, and he's one of these accountability partners I have. And, we were talking probably 10 years ago. We were reading a book called 3D Coach. And this is a guy that I always have respected for his heart for his players. And you could just tell he was in it for the right reasons. He had passion for the game. He had passion for others. And we were talking about while we coached and what we get out of it. And he said, I realized recently that I had more ego about the coaching than I thought I did. It was more about me, and we won the game, but it's the glory that I get from us winning, and or a player going on to play at the collegiate level or the professional level, and the ego that says, I helped do that. And I was stunned by his revelation of that. And it made me explore some of my motivations. And look, we are human, but I realized, maybe I'm a little more, maybe I need the ego and the stroke of living through the players. And, we both had a lot of conversations about what it's really all about. And again, it starts with God. It starts our relationship with God, our surrender to God. All we're doing is honoring the gifts He's given us. And then it just gets down to the player. I was able to, I was honored with a very, very, high honor with the manager of the year. And gosh darn, that's my name on that award, but that's not my award. That's the players award. That's their blood, sweat, tears. That's the staff's award. That's the trainer's award. That's the clubhouse guy's award. I just happen to have the title as manager, but my faith has allowed me to stay humble. I've got people that, if I think I'm getting too big, Adam Olson, our head trainer's got a great saying. It really sums this up. Once you think you're right, you're rotten. Because you get a ripe tomato and it looks great and you're feeling all good about it, and then the next day it's rotten. So you think you've got this thing all figured out, then you will get humbled. So you might as well just stay humble and stay appreciative of what you have, be grateful. And it's not to say you can't enjoy it. You still enjoy it. You still appreciate it, but you enjoy it through others. You enjoy it as a group, and then you enjoy it by saying, you know what, I have run the race. And to Mallory's question, earlier, you just, when you feel good about what you've done for the greater accomplishment of doing your best, and if it works out, great, but there's also peace if it doesn't. There's some frustration too, but so that helps me, stay humble. And the other thing is what's next, man. We can enjoy it, but there's a tomorrow, and what can we do to be better tomorrow?
Well said, Mike. Well, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I don't know if you can see the gallery view option, but it'll
I got it.
To see everybody that joined us tonight.
Yeah, what a good looking group.
Yeah, that they are. So we're gonna unmute everyone real quick so that everybody can thank you. And like I said, we just appreciate you so much for taking the time, for letting us into your life, into your heart, and your faith. So we can't thank you enough, and we hope.
Yeah, let me just say one other thing real quick. And when I speak to especially young people, is just continue, just believe in yourself. You're not alone. You have your Lord. I mentioned earlier, if things aren't going well, then ask for help. You got a lot of things coming at you. There's a lot of hard things that take place in life. You have a lot of hard decisions to make. You have a lot of things out there that can be a challenge, and but just know that you're not alone. And my email's mshildt@cardinals.com. So if you are in a tough place, you need some help, email me, and I'll do my best to help you. But ultimately, just believe in God, and then believe in yourselves, and be good to yourselves. The world can beat you up, but you're the only person with you all the time. And so be good to you, love yourself, and just stay true to you. And it's okay to make hard decisions that are the right decisions.
Good last word, my friend. Okay, so if we can unmute everybody, just give everyone an opportunity to say thank you. And thank you to all of our students for joining us. It's so good to see you all tonight. Hopefully we can have more opportunities to all get together here soon and meet in person. We miss you guys like crazy. Hopefully we can take you all to a Cardinals game at some point this summer. Mike, we had 100 tickets set aside through the community ticket program on June 29th. So
no pressure.
Right. Word in. Our good friend Lindsay Weber got us those. So
good lady.
Yes, she is. Okay, so we'll unmute everybody, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. See y'all.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That was pretty awesome.
Thanks for joining us.